In the courts of ancient kings, a single sentence could cost a man his life. Across vast empires from Persia to China, from the palaces of Assyria to the marble halls of Rome, messengers carried the lifeblood of kingdoms, news from the battlefield, reports from distant provinces, whispers of rebellion, defeat, and disaster. But there was a terrible truth every messenger understood. Some news was too dangerous to deliver. Imagine standing before a throne carved from stone and gold. The ruler of an empire sits above you, surrounded by guards, generals, and silent courtiers. Your hands tremble, not from the long journey across deserts and mountains, but from the message sealed in your memory. Your king has lost a battle. His army is broken. His enemies are advancing. In many ancient courts, the messenger who delivered such news could become the first victim of the king's rage. Heads were struck from shoulders. Bodies were mutilated. Some were executed in front of entire courts as a warning, because in the world of absolute power, bad news was not simply unwelcome. It was sometimes treated as a crime. To understand why messengers face such terrifying risks, we must step into the political reality of ancient empires, worlds ruled not by institutions or democratic systems, but by the absolute authority of a single individual. In many ancient civilizations, the king was not merely a political leader. He was believed to be chosen by the gods, protected by divine favor, or even divine himself. His authority was meant to appear unquestionable, his victories inevitable. From the Assyrian kings of Mesopotamia to the emperors of China, rulers constructed images of invincibility. Palace walls were covered with carvings showing kings crushing enemies. Beneath chariot wheels or leading unstoppable armies across foreign lands, defeat had no place in these images. Yet the reality of empire was far messier. Empires stretched across enormous territories, thousands of miles of mountains, deserts, rivers, and hostile borders. Communication moved slowly, carried by riders, runners, or ships. News could take weeks or months to reach the capital, and much of that news was terrible. Armies could be destroyed, generals could betray their kings, provinces could revolt, enemy forces could suddenly appear at the edge of an empire. Someone had to carry those messages. That task fell to the empire's couriers and envoys, men whose lives were defined by travel, endurance, and loyalty. In the Persian Empire, an elaborate network of royal roads allowed messengers to cross enormous distances with remarkable speed. Greek historian Herodotus famously described these riders as unstoppable, traveling through snow, rain, heat, and darkness. But speed did not make their job safer, because the messenger's role was deeply paradoxical. He was expected to tell the truth, but sometimes the truth could provoke the wrath of the most powerful man in the world. Ancient courts were environments filled with tension and fear. Powerful rulers surrounded themselves with advisors, generals, nobles, and rivals, all competing for influence. Any piece of information could shift the balance of power. News of defeat might threaten the king's reputation. News of rebellion might expose weakness. And news that humiliated the ruler in front of his court could be especially dangerous. In societies where kings ruled through fear and prestige, humiliation was intolerable. This dynamic created a dangerous tradition, one found across multiple ancient cultures. The bearer of bad news could become the scapegoat. While some rulers valued honest reporting, others reacted with explosive anger. Executing the messenger allowed them to vent rage, assert authority, and terrify those around them. It also created a culture of silence. Messengers learned quickly that words could be lethal. Some delayed their reports. Others tried to soften the truth. A few fled rather than deliver disastrous news. Yet the flow of information could not stop entirely. Empires depended on it, and so the messengers kept riding across deserts, mountains, and battlefields, knowing that the most dangerous moment of their journey might come not on the road, but in the throne room. Absolute power rarely survives without fear. Across the ancient world, rulers developed elaborate systems designed to maintain control over vast populations. These systems relied not only on armies and laws, but on carefully cultivated terror. Public punishment played a crucial role in this structure of authority. When a king executed someone in his court, the act was rarely private. It was a spectacle meant to send a message to everyone watching. Power belonged to the ruler alone. In the Neo-Assyrian Empire, kings were infamous for their displays of violence. Relief carvings from Assyrian palaces show prisoners being flayed alive, impaled, or paraded before the throne. These images were not hidden away. They decorated palace walls where visitors, ambassadors, and officials would see them. The message was unmistakable. Defiance would be crushed. Fear extended even into the royal court itself. Courtiers lived under constant pressure to please their king. Advisors could fall from favor overnight. Generals who lost battles might face disgrace or execution. Within this environment, messengers occupied a uniquely vulnerable position. Unlike generals or nobles, they possessed little power or protection. Their job was simply to carry information, yet that information could have enormous consequences. A messenger arriving with news of rebellion might trigger a massive military campaign. A messenger reporting defeat might shatter the carefully constructed image of royal invincibility. In courts driven by ego and paranoia, such moments were dangerous. Many rulers responded to bad news not with calm strategy, but with explosive anger. Ancient historical records preserve numerous stories of kings reacting violently when confronted with unpleasant truths. In the Persian court, royal authority was absolute. The great king ruled over millions of subjects, commanding enormous wealth and military strength. But Persian rulers were also known for dramatic displays of temper. Greek historians recorded episodes in which Persian kings punished individuals who delivered humiliating reports. In China's imperial courts, the danger of delivering bad news was also well understood. Officials who submitted reports criticizing imperial decisions could face severe punishment. Some were demoted, imprisoned, or executed. Yet the Chinese system also developed traditions encouraging officials to speak honestly, even when it risked their lives. These men were known as remonstrating officials, tasked with advising the emperor and correcting his mistakes. Their courage came at enormous personal risk. Meanwhile, in the courts of Hellenistic kings successors to the empire of Alexander the Great, royal authority could be equally unpredictable. These rulers governed kingdoms built through conquest and military power. Their courts were often filled with ambitious generals and rival factions. News of defeat could ignite political crises. Blaming the messenger offered a convenient outlet, but perhaps the most extreme examples of royal rage came during moments of catastrophic military failure. In such situations, the ruler's authority was under direct threat. Enemies might advance toward the capital. Allies might abandon the empire. In these moments, fear gripped the palace itself, and when fear ruled the throne room, the messenger who carried bad news could become the easiest target, because killing the messenger served several purposes. It punished someone, it displayed the king's power, and it reminded everyone present that the ruler's anger could fall on anyone. In the fragile psychology of absolute power, such displays were often seen as necessary. Yet behind the spectacle lay a deeper tragedy. Messengers were rarely responsible for the disasters they reported. They were simply witnesses to events unfolding far away. But in the world of ancient kings, truth itself could be dangerous, and those who spoke it sometimes paid with their lives. One of the most chilling examples of royal fury toward messengers comes from the Persian Empire. During the reign of King Cambyses II in the 6th century BCE, Cambyses was the son of Cyrus the Great, the founder of the Persian Empire. Cyrus had built one of the largest empires the world had ever seen, stretching from Central Asia to the Mediterranean. His son inherited not only that vast territory, but also the immense pressure of ruling it. Cambyses was known even in ancient sources for his volatile temperament. Greek historians, particularly Herodotus, described him as a man capable of sudden cruelty and unpredictable rage. Whether every story about him is entirely accurate remains debated by scholars, but one incident illustrates the terrifying environment of his court. During Cambyses' reign, the Persian army launched an ambitious campaign into North Africa. Among the missions was an expedition sent deep into the Libyan desert toward the Oracle of Ammon. This expedition, according to ancient accounts, vanished. Some reports claim the army was swallowed by a massive sandstorm somewhere in the Sahara, buried beneath the shifting dunes. Weeks passed, then months. Eventually, the terrible truth became clear. The army had disappeared. Thousands of Persian soldiers were gone lost to the desert. Someone had to inform the king. Imagine the journey of the messenger carrying that report. He would have traveled across hundreds of miles of desert and mountain, passing through relay stations of the Persian royal road network. Each mile brought him closer to the imperial court, and closer to a moment he probably dreaded when he finally arrived at the palace. He would have entered a world of immense wealth and power. The Persian royal court was one of the most magnificent institutions of the ancient world. Gold columns, elaborate gardens, richly decorated halls, all designed to display the grandeur of the empire. At the center sat the king, Cambyses, ruler of millions. Around him stood nobles, generals, and advisors, waiting in silence. The messenger likely knelt before the throne. Protocol demanded humility. He would have spoken carefully, choosing each word with care. But no matter how cautiously he phrased the message, the truth remained devastating. An entire army was gone. The desert had swallowed thousands of Persian soldiers. For a ruler obsessed with power and prestige, such news was more than military failure. It was humiliation. Ancient writers described Cambyses as reacting with furious anger when confronted with bad news during his reign. Whether directed specifically at this messenger or at others who brought similarly disastrous reports, the pattern was clear. In the volatile atmosphere of the Persian court, rage could become lethal. Messengers and officials sometimes paid the price. The exact fate of the man who delivered news of the lost army is not recorded in surviving sources, but historical patterns across ancient courts suggest the terrifying possibilities. A king's anger could result in immediate execution. Courtiers might drag the unfortunate messenger from the hall. Guards could carry out the punishment swiftly, beheading, impalement, or other brutal methods common in ancient punishments. Such executions served a purpose beyond simple vengeance. They reminded everyone present that the king's authority was absolute. But perhaps the most tragic element of such moments was their complete injustice. The messenger had no control over the events he reported. He had not lost the army. He had not summoned the sandstorm. Yet in the logic of royal fury, someone had to suffer. The messenger became the face of the disaster, and in the violent political culture of many ancient courts, that could be enough to seal his fate. Stories like this echoed across different civilizations. In some Greek legends, kings executed heralds who carried humiliating demands from enemies. In Chinese history, officials sometimes risked execution for submitting reports about failed policies or military defeats. Across cultures, the same pattern appeared. Absolute power struggled to accept unpleasant truths, and those who delivered those truths often stood alone before the throne. The execution or punishment of messengers might seem like an act of simple rage, but its consequences extended far beyond the walls of the royal palace. Such acts shaped how information flowed within ancient empires. When rulers reacted violently to bad news, they created an atmosphere of fear that distorted the truth. Messengers and officials learned quickly that honesty could be dangerous. Instead of reporting events accurately, they might delay their messages, soften the language, or hide disastrous developments entirely in extreme cases. Entire systems of communication could become corrupted. An emperor or king might hear only good news while disasters unfolded across distant provinces. This phenomenon appeared in multiple ancient civilizations. In imperial China, some historians warn that punishing officials for honest reports could blind the emperor to reality. Wise rulers were often advised to reward those who spoke difficult truths, even when those truths were uncomfortable. But not all rulers followed such advice. In Persia and other ancient empires, royal anger could still erupt violently, particularly during moments of crisis. Yet over time, many governments recognized the danger of killing the messenger. Information was the lifeblood of empire. Without reliable communication, armies could not coordinate campaigns, governors could not manage provinces, and rulers could not respond to threats. Gradually, some systems evolved to protect envoys and messengers. Diplomatic traditions began to emerge in which heralds were granted a degree of immunity. Killing a messenger from another state came to be seen as an act of barbarism or a declaration of war. These protections did not eliminate danger entirely, but they marked an important shift in how information was treated. Still, the stories of ancient messengers who suffered for their words remain powerful reminders of the risks once faced by those who carried truth to power. They reveal something deeply human about the psychology of rulers. When confronted with failure, humiliation, or disaster, even powerful leaders sometimes search for someone to blame, and the man standing closest to the truth could become the easiest target. History often remembers kings as conquerors, builders of empires, and figures of immense power. But behind the grandeur of ancient thrones lay darker realities. Absolute power can create a dangerous illusion, the belief that authority must never appear weak, that failure must always have a culprit, and that truth itself can be punished. Messengers stood at the fragile boundary between reality and royal pride. They carried the facts of the world into the halls of power, news of lost battles, collapsing alliances, rebellious provinces, and armies swallowed by deserts. Sometimes those truths shattered the image kings had built around themselves. And when that happened, the messenger became more than a witness. He became a symbol of failure. In the harsh political culture of many ancient courts, symbols were often destroyed. Yet these stories also reveal another truth about human history. Empires may rise through conquest and fear, but they survive only when rulers are willing to face reality. The messenger who speaks unwelcome truth is not the enemy of power. He is often its last chance to understand the world beyond the throne. But for many ancient messengers, that realization came too late, because in the courts of kings, the truth could be deadly, and sometimes the first casualty of bad news was the man brave enough to deliver it.